These two countries find themselves in one of the most sensitive geopolitical locations in the world. These are the Philippines and Taiwan. One excels in high-level electronics manufacturing, while the other has a bustling service industry. How do these countries compare? What are their relations with one another? And how do they deal with the ever-present threat of China on the horizon? Let's find out. Taiwan is situated at the crossroads of the East and South China Seas in the northwestern Pacific Ocean, approximately 749 miles away from the Philippines in Southeast Asia. The country was extremely poor after World War II. The conflict decimated the land, and the Civil War only made it worse. But the country started to pick up after reforming its farming secretary in 1949. Taiwan, officially known as the Republic of China, occupies a unique political status contested by the People's Republic of China, which claims it as a breakaway province. Despite these claims, Taiwan operates with its own government, military, and currency, maintaining recognition as an independent country by a select few nations. In contrast, the Philippines, an archipelago comprising of over 7,600 islands, has biodiversity, scenic beaches, and a rich cultural heritage. Having endured centuries of Spanish colonization and a U.S. occupation afterwards, the Philippines became an independent republic. Despite the political size and population disparities, these nations share deep cultural and economic ties. So how do the economies of the two nations compare? In today's global world, the strength of your economy is power. This is especially true if your nation specializes in an economy that the rest of the world relies on. One of these is information technology. This sector is king in today's world. It includes semiconductors, processors, and computer chips. And Taiwan is at the forefront of this. TSMC, also known as Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is one of the largest producers of semiconductors. This company has big-ticket customers, including the likes of Apple, AMD, and Nvidia. Apple will account for 23% of its revenue in 2022 alone. Suffice to say that Taiwan is a major player in the semiconductor industry. It relies on this sector for 15% of its GDP, producing nearly 60% of the world's semiconductors. Often referred to as Taiwan's Silicon Shield, this economic powerhouse not only safeguards its own prosperity, but also extends economic protection to its neighbors. Taiwan's economic dominance, particularly in manufacturing, makes it a global leader, especially in the fields of electronics and semiconductors. Now, it started in the 1980s when Taiwan first entered the high-technology sector, but they've made a lot of progress since then. This achievement comes from a strategic focus on manufacturing substantial investments in research and development, education, and infrastructure. With a focus on electronics and machinery, Taiwan continuously achieves strong GDP growth rates, low unemployment, and considerable export revenues because of its favorable business environment, competent workforce, and smooth integration into global supply networks. In contrast, the Philippines has carved its niche in the services sector with a notable emphasis on business process outsourcing, or BPO. The Philippines is an attractive place for BPO companies. This is because its workforce mostly consists of people who can speak English. Its competent education system is producing professionals who are skilled in their respective fields, and best of all, their labor costs are low. But the geopolitical significance of these countries means that the rest of the world isn't simply going to leave them to their devices. The eye of China and the US is ever present in these two nations. But before we get into that, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video so far. Now let's talk about the geopolitical tensions these two countries find themselves in. In the South China Sea, where nations balance between allies and adversaries, stability, power dynamics, and coordinated actions are the most important. In November of 2023, there was a 4-hour meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden in San Francisco. The topic of the meeting? Taiwan. Taiwan is a constant thorn in the side of U.S.-China relations. China's leader desires a peaceful reunification with Taiwan, but he also hinted at the possibility of resorting to force under certain conditions. President Biden, in response, reassured President Xi of the U.S.'s commitment to regional peace. Biden also criticized China for their massive military buildup around Taiwan. But on the other hand, Xi wants the US to stop arming Taiwan and support China's peaceful reunification. The situation is complicated to say the least. Both sides keep disagreeing on how to handle Taiwan, and it's causing a rift between the two nations. So, does Taiwan get a say in all of this? Taiwan adheres to the One China policy. It aligns its claim with the People's Republic of China, mirroring China's expansive stance over the entire region. On the other hand, the Philippines strongly challenges China's territorial claims, especially within the Spratly Islands. The Philippines' stance on Taiwan has changed over the years. It's gone from being passive to being actively involved. The first instance where cross-strait matters became a focal point in the Philippine-US alliance dates back to March 1996, when China launched unarmed ballistic missiles near Taiwan's coast. Responding firmly, the United States deployed 2 carrier battle groups close to Taiwan to convey to China that any aggression against Taiwan would not be tolerated. In the aftermath of this incident, recognizing the need to enhance security ties with the Philippines, the U.S. wanted access to air and naval infrastructures in Luzon. This move aimed to facilitate the swift deployment of American forces in the event of a crisis in Northeast Asia. Between 1996 and 1998, the two allies engaged in negotiations that culminated in the signing of the Visiting Forces Agreement. Now, this agreement was deemed crucial for revitalizing the alliance following the withdrawal of American forces from the Philippines in late 1992, initially driven by concerns over stability across the Taiwan Strait, which played a pivotal role in the late 1990s negotiations. These concerns took a back seat as the alliance refocused on the war on terror and China's maritime expansion in the West Philippine Sea. However, cross-strait tensions resurfaced in the last few months of former President Rodrigo Duterte's administration. On February 2, 2023, officials from the Philippines and the U.S. Defense Department jointly announced a significant development. The U.S. would gain new access to 4 armed forces of the Philippines bases across the country. This announcement solidified the joint efforts of the two allies to broaden the U.S. strategic presence in Southeast Asia and the Indo-Pacific region, countering the assertive and expansionist actions of China. This access agreement increased the number of bases from 5 to 9. According to the terms, the United States can utilize these bases for training, equipment setup, and construction of runways and other facilities. The United States allocated over $82 million for infrastructure investments, fostering economic growth and job creation in local communities. Marcos Jr. has not explicitly stated that his country would support the United States in any armed contingency in Taiwan. He wants to avoid the Philippines being entangled in any potential conflict. But he also thinks that no matter how you look at the situation, an armed conflict is inevitable, and the Philippines would have to get involved to defend Taiwan one way or another. With such tensions in the region, you may be wondering how these two nations are getting along. It looks like that there are a few events that show a strengthening of relations between Taiwan and the Philippines. For one, there have been efforts to improve the economic ties between Taiwan and the Philippines. The head of the Philippine Economic Zone Authority visited Taiwan in May 2023 to present investment opportunities related to the 422 duty-free zones in the Philippines. This was pitched as an alternative to China amid global efforts to reduce dependence on Chinese investment. At the same time, the Philippines Board of Investment revealed discussions with 8 Taiwanese tech companies regarding potential investments, primarily in electronics and industrial machinery manufacturing, although the specific companies were not disclosed. We've also seen cross-border law enforcement cooperation between Taiwan and the Philippines, with incidents ranging from the apprehension of wanted criminals associated with organized crime to the rescue of 2,700 individuals, including Taiwanese and others, held captive in a cybercrime ring. Currently, there are 154,000 Filipinos in Taiwan. They account for 21% of all migrant workers. Taiwan needs workers from the Philippines, or else their economy will suffer, as they already deal with labor shortages. And the Philippines, with an unemployment rate of 4.2%, could use those jobs. Codependence like this could foster favorable relations between the two countries, with policies like permanent residency being put on the table. Now let us know in the comments what you think about these two nations. Leave a like, subscribe for more, share with your friends, and be sure to check out these videos on the screen.